Well, all right. Hello and welcome to another do-it-yourself workshop brought to you by the Home Depot. In this workshop, it is all about garbage disposals. Now, my name is Ron, a last name George, and joining me for our project today is my good friend Antonio Lopez Jr. And together, my friends, we are going to show you how to replace a garbage disposal. Now, Antonio, you recently did this in your home. Share a little bit of that with us.
Well, did it in my home recently, changed out the sink, replaced the garbage disposal. I've done it a couple times, pretty simple. In fact, we're gonna show you folks out there when we helped our buddy Leland replace his garbage disposal as well. But before we go into that, we wanna just go over a couple quick things because we wanna make sure you have a great workshop experience. That means we wanna answer your questions. So use that Q&A icon. Looks like a little hand raiser, just like that. Great job, Rob. Give it a click and ask us your questions. You can also email us. We have a workshops live at homedepot.com inbox. Again, that's workshops live at homedepot.com. Write to us. We're happy to support you. We even made a resource guide. You can find that down there as well. Stack of paper icon with interlocking chain link symbol. Give it a click and save that resource guide PDF to support you. Ron, quick question though. What about replaying this workshop? Can we do that?
Well, that's a good question.
I know, that's
How
why I
many,
asked it.
how many times have y'all ever been watching a movie, a show, anything at all? You're on your laptop, you're enjoying some clips from whatever. Next thing you know, there's a knock at the door, the dogs are barking. Things happen, right? Life happens. Well, you don't have to worry about it because we got you covered. Because about an hour after the workshop is over, you're going to receive a thanks for attending email. And in that email is going to be a link to the recorded version of this workshop, which means you can watch it as many times as you want.
That's awesome. So I think we checked off housekeeping. So now, Ron, walk us through today's menu, if you will, on the workshop.
Happy to do so, my friend. So the first thing that we're going to cover, ladies and gentlemen, is how to get rid of the old garbage disposal. Next thing we're going to do is talk about how to select the new one if you haven't already gotten a new one, i.e. several different things to choose from. We're going to give you some insight on how to pick that based on your needs and your lifestyle. And then we're going to go ahead and get down to brass tacks, and we are going to install that new garbage disposal. And then at the very end of the day, we're going to cover down on the tools and the supplies necessary in order to get that project done. But as always, it's a good idea to check with your local municipality first to ensure there has not been any kind of updated building codes requirements that have to do with garbage disposals. You know, you want to make sure that you're doing things right and doing things safe.
There you go.
Now, Antonio, I got to tell you something.
What's that?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I think you're ready.
I think they are.
So what's first?
Well, you said it. We want to be safe, protect you as homeowners. So safety is always the first part of any project. For this, that means going down to the circuit breaker, turning off the electrical power. So you're going to find that specifically marked one for that garbage disposal. We'll show you that in a removal video, but just turn it off, label it, do whatever you got to do to be safe. That's a need to have. Now, a nice to have, Ron, is also maybe turn off the water at that kitchen sink underneath. You've got those individual shutoffs. Turn them off just as an added measure, especially if this is your first time. What do you think about that, Ron?
I think that is a great first step. I think you guys are ready to see what's going on now. Let's go ahead and start that removal process.
Roll that tape.
Begin by turning off electricity at your circuit breaker or fuse box. Now you'll head underneath your kitchen sink, and you may choose to also turn off your individual water supply lines. It might be a helpful tip, depending, especially if this is your first time. Continue disconnecting plumbing connections. So you're looking at the drain trap being loosened and removed. You're also going to disconnect a dishwasher hose connection if you have a dishwasher. Now this is usually clamped together with a little piece that you see right here that's being unscrewed. So using a flathead screwdriver will loosen the tension so you can pull that off. Now the following steps may not be necessary, but removing the mounting assembly and the sink flange can be done by using this tool right here or a screwdriver to dislodge it, and then you'll focus on removing and loosening these screws that you see that kind of hold everything up against the sink underneath. Once you remove that, notice that there's a little circular ring that's called a snap ring. This is a piece that has to get pulled apart. You can pry it off with a screwdriver as well. Once you remove that, you'll see it'll break everything free so that you can push the old sink flange up. And then when you head above into the sink, you'll see you can just pull that off and make sure to scrape off all of that old plumber's putty before the new install. Now, in terms of power, we have to unwire this. So remove the plate that covers the wiring. You're going to pull the wires out and loosen all of those wire nut connections, and then focus on removing the cable clamp connector as well. This might look a little different depending on what you have, but once you do this, you'll be able to pull those wires out of that opening.
Now, we know not everyone's home is built the same. When you take a look underneath the sink, you might see different things. Whether you have a dual basin, it will look different as compared to like a single basin. But remember, the steps of the removal process are exactly the same. Now, Antonio, if I haven't purchased the garbage disposal yet, is there anything that I should know about selecting one?
A lot of different brands, a lot of features. We want to focus on 3 items here. Size, horsepower, we're looking even at noise level. Those are probably some of the most important things to be aware of. When we're talking about size, measure your current garbage disposal. Measure the space underneath, and I'm talking about plumbing, anything that could impact or interfere. Because if you're going from the smaller model to bigger, beefier, more features, we got to make sure that you can accommodate that. If not, you're going to add to that DIY and replumb underneath your kitchen sink. So that's the last thing we want to do. Horsepower. That impacts a few things. More power is essentially more grind capability, better features, better materials, perhaps could also make it quieter. And that's where you look for that noise level. It'll actually say sometimes things like zone level, or it'll say noise level. In fact, the one that we installed for our good friend, it's that InSinkErator 5/8 horsepower. It has additional noise level features to keep it quieter. You'll see in the video in a little bit how quiet that is. A lot of different features, but point in case, whether it's a third of a horsepower, which is the most common, the smallest, you're gonna see that in new build homes, to all the way up to 1 horsepower. That's where you're looking about the strongest capabilities for grinding, the strongest noise reduction capabilities, but again, the most expensive when you start to go up to those levels. So overall, really quick tips right there.
You know, you said something earlier that I really like. You said the word stainless steel. Let me just show everybody something really quick.
Oh,
Okay, so this is a common contractor grade garbage disposal. Now, I decided to take it apart just so you guys can see that over time, if it's not stainless steel, what's in here is going to get corroded. When this gets corroded, then pinholes get in the actual unit itself, causing it to leak, and that causes it to fail. So for spending just a little bit more money to get the stainless steel option, you're going to have a unit that is going to run cleaner, going to run quieter, and going to run longer over the course of time. So there are 2 basic types of garbage disposal. You got something called a batch feed. You got a continuous feed. Now, continuous feed is kind of what we're used to.
Yeah.
You put the food down, you turn it on, you let it run, and it can be continuous. That's what continuous feed means. Batch feed, however, are units that have to be filled with a batch of waste, the stopper put on before you can even turn them on. The biggest difference between the two is kind of like a safety thing.
okay.
If you have younger children in the home, batch feed might be for you because, like I said before, it cannot be turned on until the stopper is in the unit. And that's a good thing. So you fill it, you run it, and then you're done. However, for ease of use and for cost effectiveness, continuous feed may be the route to go too, as far as being able to let it run continuous and turn it on and off at your leisure.
Ron, I'm hearing you right. It's safety versus convenience. That's kind of the main distinction between batch versus continuous.
Well, and then you've got costs too. You've got batch feeds are going to be a little more expensive than a continuous feed, right? And they have different levels of motors too. They go up from a third of a horsepower up to a full horsepower,
Right.
as well as continuous and batch. They basically branch off that way.
What about if I have a septic system in my house?
That is a good question. So, if your home is on a septic system, it may be worth checking out a garbage disposal that works with a septic system. They have them that actually pump this like a chemical cleaner into the actual garbage disposal unit itself, and it runs it with the food So when it gets down to your septic system, it's breaking it up even more. So that's a good thing. I'll always take a look at the manufacturer's instructions. It'll tell you what your garbage disposal is capable of. In fact, he did show you this. Let me just take a look at this again. If you take a look at the back of the box, you can tell what the different sizes can do, right? And what they're recommended that they can do.
Yeah, even if you go on .com and you start looking at all this, it'll give you a little chart of that information. So I think it's really important to say, read the labels too when you're looking at the packaging and all that good stuff.
Oh no, I got to read the instructions and the label. Well, anyway, so when we think about the actual install, we talked safety, but let's just talk about the electrical connections, and then let's go ahead and walk them through the install. What do you think?
I don't want to talk electrical. I want to show electrical. So let's cut to the camera. We've got a little setup here, pretty common setup. We even made it easier. Your home, again, might look a little different, but if you've got an outlet, if you got a plug-in model currently that you're replacing, and you're going to want to match that with your new replacement garbage disposal. Might need to get a plug kit depending. Alternatively, and this is what we've done personally, what I've done in my home, is we had to actually install a hardline connection. So that means we had to do a little wiring inside. We'll show you some tips on how to safely handle that. Just be aware of that. If you got an outlet versus not, that's going to dictate which model to get and maybe some additional item. Ron, with that being said, I talked about showing electrical. Can we show them the video of us installing that 5/8 horsepower incinerator?
I think that's what they came here for.
Well, let's go ahead. Let's rock and roll and show that tape.
Let's show it.
Let's start by removing the knockout for the dishwasher connection, because again, this will get connected to a dishwasher. Just make sure you remove any debris from the disposal itself before the install. And let's go ahead and connect that sink flange. This specific model is going to use a black rubber gasket. Most models will require some kind of plumber's putty, so refer to your manufacturer's instructions to make sure that you create the proper watertight seal. Now, as we get everything coupled together, we're going to push this down into that opening. And here's a tip. Use that old garbage disposal to weigh down the sink flange. Use a towel, some type of partition to prevent any damage to your sink. Moving down underneath the sink, we're now creating the mounting assembly to get installed. And this has several components. You have a fiber gasket piece that must first get installed right in between there, followed by that upper mounting bracket and then the lower mounting bracket. All of this gets snapped together with a snap ring. That's that circular piece that has to get pulled apart. And once you snap it into place, it creates all that tension to hold everything together. So just take your time. This does take a little maneuvering because you are under the sink. Focus next on tightening all of those screws. You'll notice that we are alternating using that screwdriver. So if you want to use a ratcheting screwdriver, a shorter type of screwdriver, whatever makes it easier for you, just do not over tighten. Just want enough tension to get everything nice and flush. Now, in terms of wiring, take your time. Use a non-contact voltage tester. Just make sure that power is off and remove this plate covering to expose the wires. You'll also notice that you'll have to install a cable clamp connector into that opening. So this is feeding the power from your home into that garbage disposal, feeding those wires through, and then clamping that connection with those screws. Now, in terms of wiring, it's about following the instructions, but also taking your time and matching colors. Essentially, if you're making connections white to white, black to black, it's very important to take your time, but also match these correctly. If you have stranded wires like these, you want to have the stranded wires slightly higher than the solid wires. Then you'll use a wire connector to twist it on. And then you can either see visible twists on the wires. Some people will prefer to actually do pre-twisting. It's not required, but again, it's a preference. You just want to have a good tight connection. So once you connect it with the wire connectors, make sure you give it a tug to make sure that it's nice and taut. Again, you can see those visible twists as you make these connections. Now, if you want to use electrical tape, you can use it as an added safety measure, but it's not required. What's very important is that we want to make sure that this is properly grounded too. So what you'll notice is there's typically a grounding screw that has to have a green wire wrapped screw looped around in the clockwise motion and tighten down, or you'll have to match a green wire to a bare copper wire. Same principles apply using that wire connector. Make sure you get those visible twists and give it a tug. And then once you get that all connected, you can tuck in the wires and then replace that cap back on and tighten that screw. You have now hardwired your garbage disposal, but we're not just done yet. Now we have to move the garbage disposal and lock it into place. You'll see these ridges on the mounting assembly. There's 3 of them, and there's a little notch that we're showing right here that has to get on top of the ridges in a clockwise motion. So take note right here, once it snaps in, you have to get each of these, which there are 3, on at the same time, and then you can use this tool or a screwdriver to give it further tension as you go in that clockwise motion. Now here we go back to that dishwasher connection. If you have it, you're going to use that dishwasher hose connection kit, get it looped onto that opening, and then tighten that little metal clamp using a screwdriver and tightening that screw. We'll proceed by making our other connections with our drain trap. This specific model has a little gasket piece that has to go on first, and then that black PVC pipe goes into that opening, and that'll connect to your home's plumbing. Once we have that connected, you may need to cut it. Depends again on what you need to do for your specific install. But we're proceeding to just tighten any connections, making sure that everything is watertight and sealed. And there you have it. We have installed this garbage disposal. So all we have left to do is test this, making sure that there's no leaks. So we'll turn on the water. We'll go ahead and turn the power back onto the garbage disposal and let that water run it, turn it on. This specific model is very quiet. So again, it's some different features to look at. I'll test it out with some produce. And sure enough, this is a working model. Everything works well, and we're checking for leaks.
So what'd you think about that? Not too difficult at all. But now that the project is almost complete, we got to check everything, Antonio, make sure everything's running right.
It's so important, testing all your connections. You know, you've done all this work, so not only are you testing after you do the install, you're checking for leaks, all those important steps, but take a few days, take even, I would say even weeks, just to stay on top of it, making sure that you don't have any kind of oversight. Because the last thing you have to do is deal with a leak or think that your garbage disposal is broken and then go return it and it's not it. So we'll just, again, reiterate, testing is so important, right? In fact, here's a little tip, Ron. I got to tell you, because we showed knocking out that little piece if you have a dishwasher hose connection. So when you're taking your garbage disposal, even before you're installing and connecting it, empty it out. Make sure it's empty. Hold it upside down, shake it out, just to make sure that there's no debris, nothing left over, so you're not dealing with any kind of little horror story, if you will.
Funny that you mentioned it,
Why is that?
because I have a horror story that I'd like to tell you about the dishwasher plug.
Story time with Ron?
That's right. So, you know, Antonio did tell you, he said, make sure that you knock this thing out, right? Well, don't forget to do that. He was basically saying you knocked it out, but make sure that the debris from the plug is emptied out of the garbage disposal, because you don't want that in there when you're running it.
Yeah.
But I've got a better tip for you. Make sure you knock out the plug if you've got a dishwasher. Now, you don't need to do that if you don't have a dishwasher, but I had a dishwasher, and this went about 25 plus years ago. It was the very first one that I did. And I forgot to knock that thing out. So I put it all up, and everything was good, and it was running beautifully, right? Food was grinding up. It was going where it needed to go. But then I decided to run my dishwasher. I ran my dishwasher, and it ran fine. But then when I opened up the dishwasher in order to empty it out, it was full of water. And all I could keep think of is, why is my dishwasher full of water? I thought my dishwasher was broken.
Oh,
Come to find out, was lucky enough to call my brother, who happens to be a contractor. You got to remember, I was significantly young at the time. And the first thing that he said to me, he said, hey, Ron, he said, did you knock out the plug for the discharger drain line? And I went, plug? What? He said, yeah, there's a little plug in there. You got to knock it out, because not everybody's got a dishwasher, but every garbage disposal has a discharge line.
Right.
So had to take it all back out, knock out the plug, empty it out to make sure that the plug wasn't still in there and the remnants of it were gone, and then reattach it. The good news is I got to do it twice.
There you go. It's got better.
Bad news is I had all that water in the dishwasher that I had to get rid of. Now, all these things have relevance, but something else that has real relevance is the tools that we use for these installs and for the removal process. But before we get there, here's one thing that I like to tell everybody.
What's that?
Is one of the things that I have to let you know is if you've ever worked under your sink, you know it's not the most glamorous place in the world, right? Or a more comfortable place. So you want to make sure that you're comfortable. Maybe get yourself a pillow or something that you can lean back on so you don't want to hurt your back. Different other things to take in consideration. But you have to think about that whole entire list, like you said before. I just want everyone to understand that the project is the project is the project, but the place might be different. There might be something else going on. You might have a cabinet that has a down crossbar in the middle between the two doors. If you're lucky enough not to have that, I have a tough time getting under a sink.
Well, it's hard to get around. I mean, even that install that we did, we were getting around that little center partition, so it's a little awkward, it's a little uncomfortable. That's why we're trying to give them a little more peace of mind, a little more comfort, right, Ron? That's our approach.
That's basically why we want to consider all these different tools, all the different things we're talking about before, in fact, you actually do remove it
Ron,
and replace it.
Can I show them? Can we show them these tools?
I'm just adamant. Okay, no, okay. Let's show you. All right, let's do it.
All right.
Do it.
What do we got? We got our first tool on the list is going to be a screwdriver. We know this pretty much is a given at this point. So a couple things to know is you definitely want Phillips or flathead. Think about some additional features that might make this job a little easier. Ron uses a shorter, like a stubby type of screwdriver, so that might be beneficial based on your space. You can consider getting something that has a ratcheting mechanism. It's a risk saver, all right? This lets you be more efficient, a little more effective.
Well, what I like about this is
What's that?
you don't have to give any more thought to all the different tips because you have them. You've got the little holders. No matter what you need, it's there.
So great versatility. All right, we've got that. So check on that. Chances are, hopefully y'all have one. Don't use a butter knife. We also got, this is Ron, talk to us about this guy because when I first saw this, all I thought is this is an Allen wrench, but this is a little more than that.
Well, it, my friends, is the garbage disposal wrench, right? Got to think about it. If you don't have a wrench for your existing disposal, you can use a hex wrench if you need to, but 9 times out of 10, that's going to come with a new disposal purpose or purchase, if you may purchase. Now, it serves two needs. The first need would be to unlock the actual mounting ring itself, as you saw us do in the video.
Right.
And it also serves to lock it in place. In addition to that, it's going to help you deal with any kind of jams that you may have. It serves as a manual jam releaser. What you do is at the very bottom of your garbage disposal, you see this little area right here I'm pointing at. You're going to slip this in there, right? It goes all the way in. And when your garbage disposal has a high hum and the blades inside aren't moving, then you have a jam. So we're going to try to manually release that. What we're going to do is we've put that in the place where it needs to be, and we're just going to turn it, right? We're just going to turn it. Now you can hear them moving, right? You can just hear them moving. And you've released whatever jam that is. Another tip is you're going to reset it.
That's the reset button.
That's the reset button right there. We're going to go ahead and push it. You've basically reset the unit. You're going to remove this, and then you're going to go ahead and try to run the garbage disposal. If those things don't work, then it's time to replace. I just wanted to show you that because sometimes you can fix it without having to replace it.
Got it. And just to go back, this is the spot that you talked about that we showed in the video that helps move that. So a lot of versatility with that tool. I know, Ron, you told me sometimes that comes with a brand new garbage disposal. So you don't necessarily need to buy it. It may already come with that kit as well. What else do we have? Well, look, we've got another really versatile tool that's going to be needle nose pliers. Might be called long nose pliers. But let's go ahead and show that.
I mean, think about it for a second. The type of plier provides versatility, precision for narrow spaces. It can assist with loosening a fastener or helping with hard wiring when you're dealing with electrical.
That's right. You see, like
All right.
that gives you that precision to really reach into hard places. Uh, this is a job that may need you to do some wiring. So a lot of great benefits and versatility with this outside of garbage
Now,
disposal too.
speaking of wiring, what about a good quality pair of wire strippers?
Yeah, let me show you this. This is by Clyde Tools. This is just one of many different brands, all right? We're not brand specific here. We're just showing you examples. But look at this, Ron. This has so much utility. It has different slots based on the thickness of the wire that you are cutting.
What's the thickness of the wire called?
So that's going to be gauge. So the gauge, the rule of thumb is, let's say you've got a higher number of gauge, let's say an 18 or a 16. That's going to be actually thinner
Mhm.
versus something like a 10 gauge or a 12 gauge. That's going to be actually a little thicker. So you're matching that number. And another important piece of information we showed you in that wiring part of the video, you've got a side that corresponds to stranded and a side that corresponds to unstranded or solid. So you'll see kind of markings on that side. On the top here, you'll say solid. On the bottom here, it's stranded. So you got to make sure you use a corresponding side based on the wire that you are cutting or stripping.
Now, speaking of wire and speaking of stripping the wire and things like that, it would be a good idea that if you are under your sink and you're dealing with that wire, you're going to want to see what you're doing. So I'm thinking that you're probably going to want some kind of flashlight, or I prefer a headlamp.
Rana, I'm with you, buddy. You got to light the way. Something like this, convenient. There's multiple uses. You're not using it just for DIY projects.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have to tell you, using a headlamp is going to free your hands up to do the work. It's going to free your hands up to do the work. You're going to be under a sink. You're going to need both your hands. Unless you want someone else under there holding your flashlight or your phone, you get a headlamp. They're very good. It's a very good tool to have in your toolkit.
We actually used a bigger, larger, little multi-use battery to light our space. So this is something that would have made it even more convenient when we were doing that install.
You're right. Now, speaking of lighting up spaces,
What else?
the one thing that we don't want to do is we don't want to be messing with any live lines. So the next thing we're going to think about in our toolkit is a non-contact voltage tester so that you can tell what's hot and what's not.
Did you just come up with that yourself? Like,
I'm going to copyright it.
you're a little marketing genius over
That's
here.
right. So that's what it's going to do. And the reason why it's non-contact is you don't even have to touch a live wire with it for it to go off. While it's turned on, green is good, red is bad. Red is hot, green is not.
So that green, it might be a little washed out there, but
Oh, I can see that.
again, gives you visual and audible indicators. Ron, I like the added tip that you love to share is make sure you got fresh batteries in this too. All right, this specific model is going to take 2 AAA batteries, so just keep in mind you're using this great safety tool, but make sure that it is properly powered.
And then the next thing on our list of tools is kind of something that I'm thinking everybody has in their house, some kind of short bucket.
Oh, bucket time?
You're going to want to put a bucket under the sink. Look, you're going to be removing that P-trap. We showed you that. There's going to be some excess water in the P-trap. Want to drain it into the bucket. Keep that bucket under there for some excess water that will leak when you remove them. Okay, so that's kind of important as well too. And then, of course, to finish things off, we are going to use plumber's putty.
All right, so we got that right here.
That's right.
Ron, I don't know about you. This kind of makes me feel like a kid playing with putty. I mean, it's almost the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know if you'd want to play with that.
Well, no, yeah. I mean, this is not a toy. We're talking about an actual DIY to upgrade and replace your home. This is the kind of the end result. If your install requires putting plumber's putty, they'll talk to you about getting some out, rolling it into a ball, and then making a circular rope because this is going to be that piece that will go under the sink flange. Let's show you that. This is actually that old sink flange that we replaced. You see all that plumber's putty that's still stuck on it, crusts off. So this is going to go into that new install. So it'll go right underneath that whole area there. And then as you install it into your actual sink, it'll press down and squeeze out and seals that. So that's that extra water seal there that you will partner with the plumber's putty.
That's definitely a lot of stuff.
It's a lot of stuff, but this is good stuff to know and embrace. Ron, anything else that we're missing in terms of tools or supplies? I know we've got sponges, maybe some rags.
Well, there's definitely some optional tools and equipment. So like we said, rags and old towels, paper towels to dry up the area, dishwasher connector kit. If you're not using the old dishwasher connector and you want to get a new dishwasher connector, it's going to be like a little gasket that's going to connect onto that and run to a hose for your dishwasher. Generally speaking, if you're replacing it, um, replacing your garbage disposal, you can use the same dishwasher connector. Don't typically change out my dishwasher connector until it's time for a new dishwasher. But it is something you could do if you did want to replace the whole entire line. It would take you removing your dishwasher in order to do that. But the connectors are just these metal type clamps. They clamp around that rubber gasket and pull it tight and hold it tight to the actual garbage disposal. Now, one of the things that we need to talk about a little bit is what to do in order to cut the actual PVC pipe. So maybe I need to make it a different length. Maybe it has to be a little shorter, right? The little tailpipe. Maybe see if you can take a look. If you can see here real close, we cut this down. The cut doesn't have to be super clean. It doesn't have to be super straight. So you can get away with just taking a hacksaw and just, hacksawing it off just like that. It's simple, easy. We'll go ahead and do it real quick for everybody on camera. See if it's going to stick for me. And then we'll be done.
Key important note to make when you're doing this cut, you can see this can it's doable. Just make sure you've got a good clean area. Just take your time with it so you don't slip and maybe cause a cut or any damage on that surface you're working on.
And I mean, it's really simple to cut that down. You saw how easy that was to do. Didn't take a second or two to do that. Just going to want to make sure that you're taking those measurements of the actual PVC piece, the tail piece, from the garbage disposal before you're putting it on there. You don't want to get all the way up there and then have to take everything off.
All right, Ron, a good amount of information you covered. You might even need to get some kind of different cable clamp on the bottom of your wired connection. You may need to buy some different cable connectors, so just keep in mind you may need to purchase that. But most of the times, even the couple installs we've done together, we were able to use the pre-existing cable connector clamp. So I know this is a lot of information. Ron, there was some additional tips I think that you're really passionate about. I mean, there's some tips I want to even share before we wrap this up. But what did you got?
Well, one of the major tips that I would just share with you guys is just maintenance. Keeping the garbage disposal clean. One thing that we typically have a tendency of doing is we turn the garbage disposal on, it grinds the food down, and we turn it right off. Well, you want to let the garbage disposal run for a little while, and you want to be running cool water down the garbage disposal as it's turned on. Run it for a little bit, let it run completely through, get it cleaned out. Also, in addition to that, weekly, I would throw a big batch of ice cubes down my garbage disposal.
Why ice?
Well,
Because I usually just do like run hot water.
well, ice is going to, as the blades grind up the ice, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to make all the debris and leftover food particles. It's going to release them all and clean the blades as it does it. So the ice serves two purposes. It's going to clean these, right? And it's going to release any of the particles or food that's caught in there. And it's going to keep the garbage disposal running a whole lot better, cleaner, and it actually extends the life of your garbage disposal.
So a little tip to make it work more effectively, it's like giving your garbage disposal a little wash, if you will, a little spa time.
That's right.
For your disposal. Another tip that might be helpful too is when you're dealing with that sink flange replacement, sometimes you can repurpose the pre-existing sink flange that you have. So if you're going with the same like make and model incinerator, chances are you might not even need to replace this. But if you want to, just make sure that you go through the steps, apply it properly. Sometimes you might have some trouble with that part in the video where we showed connecting kind of these pieces to the sink flange. Got to make sure that you put all those pieces, follow the instructions, really important, because this little cardboard ring, don't omit it, right? It's there for a reason, and that's going to go in first with this little mounting plate. And then as you're securing this lower mounting bracket, this snap ring can cause a lot of trouble and headaches, because if you're doing this by yourself, you're underneath the sink on your back, you're trying to weigh down the top of the sink flange so that you can make this connection all in one fell swoop. So just kind of practice getting that done and getting nimble. There's even tips of folks using zip ties to kind of connect it loosely together. That way you don't have to worry about juggling so many things at once. The point is just kind of take your time. If you've got a friend or a family member to help you out with this, it's going to be even easier to get this done and get it done right.
Kind of like a mounting bracket sandwich is what it is.
Wow,
So,
that's a good reference there.
we're coming to the end of today's workshop, and I'm a little sad.
Why? Don't be sad. Okay, we're gonna have more workshops to do and put on.
Well, we hope that we had an opportunity to share some of our experiences with you, so you can gain the confidence and competence to take on this project. Because, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you real quick before we do a quick recap of what we talked about today. If you're willing to take on a project like this, you could save yourself anywhere from $100 to $250 on an install fee. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. That's money back in your pocket, or to a more high-end type of garbage disposal. Think about it. Now, Antonio, do you mind taking us through a quick recap?
Absolutely. A lot of knowledge, a lot of information, a lot of tips. Look, this is a great opportunity to support y'all as homeowners. And we talked about a lot of information. We showed y'all removing that pre-existing garbage disposal, and you're pretty much reversing the process with that new installation. But when you're installing that new one, you got to pick the right one and the right model. Like Ron said, maybe you could splurge for a little higher end model, get that really quiet garbage disposal, as long as it fits.
That's right.
We're all done here, Ron.
Almost done.
Oh, what are we forgetting?
I just want to let you guys know, hopefully together, Antonio and I have given you the know-how and the assist to work alongside you while you do your research on selection and the installation project itself. And I don't want you to think about this if you didn't get it all. Like I said before, we have that amazing resource guide.
Yep, download it.
We'll also have that email that comes out to them once again with a recording.
We'll play the link.
Right? That's going to help them out. And one last thing that I want to share with you, directly after the actual workshop, a little pop-up survey is going to come up. It's going to ask a couple basic questions. The most important question we want to know from you is, what else can we do to make your life better?
Yeah.
Right? From the Home Depot to you. And with that,
let's wrap it up. On behalf of myself, Ron, thank you. But thank you out there, folks. We appreciate you. And we hope to see you soon on another edition of our Homeowner One-on-One Workshops. Bye, y'all.